invite all legislators to please join us in the chambers. We are going to start tonight's meeting. You got enough? Legislator Bill Gaylor, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yep. If everyone would please rise, face the flag. Join me by saying I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mike, can you call the roll, please?
Thank you. The roll call. Deputy Presiding Officer Howard Copel. Thank you. Alternate Deputy Presiding Officer Denise Ford.
Here.
Legislator Sela Bino.
Here.
Legislator Carrier Salage. Legislator Deborah Muley. Legislator C. William Gaylor III.
Present.
Legislator Vincent Muscarella. Legislator Ellen Birnbaum.
Here.
Thank you. Legislator Delia DeRiggi Witten. Legislator James Kennedy. Legislator Thomas McKevitt.
Here.
Legislator Laura Schaefer. Legislator John Ferretti.
Here.
Legislator Arnold Drucker. Thank you. Legislator Rosemary Walker.
Here.
Legislator Joshua Lafazan. Legislator Stephen Rhodes. Minority Leader Kavan Abrahams is not present. Okay. Presiding Officer Richard Nicolello. We have a quorum, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to our night meeting of the Nassau County Legislature. We have, before we get into the public, the business portion of the calendar, we have several presentations, including what we traditionally do at every meeting, which is the top cops. So we'll do the presentations. We'll have a period for public comment. If you do want to speak, please take a slip and present it to the clerk's office at the table, and we'll have an extended period for public comment. Then we'll do the business of the legislature. So, as I said, as customary, we recognize top cops for the month of February. And to start things off, I would call upon yes, for the PBA first, President Jimmy McDermott.
Good evening. Once again, I'd like to thank the County Leg for having legislative top cop, and this one's for February of 2020. It's for police officers Richard Fosbeck, Kenneth Pedersen, and police officer Zach Beningo of the 1st Precinct. On February 8, 2020, at approximately 12:10 p.m., officers Fosbeck, Pedersen, and Beningo were dispatched to 447 Bayfront Drive in Baldwin for a well check on an emotionally disturbed person. Upon arrival, they observed the 29-year-old female threatening to jump off a dock and into the bay. As officers approached the dock, the emotionally disturbed woman jumped into the frigid water. Officers threw the victim a flotation device, but the victim, who went into shock, was unable to grab it. Officer Pedersen and Beningo then removed their equipment and jumped into the water, but soon realized that the current was too strong as the victim was being pulled further out of into the bay. Officer Fosbeck then located a rowboat in a neighbor's yard. All 3 officers then entered the rowboat and rowed towards the victim, who was now approximately 75 yards from the shoreline. When the officers reached the victim, they were able to grab hold of her and bring her partially into the rowboat. Officers then began to row back towards the shoreline when they were met by the Marine Bureau, who were then able to pull the victim from the frigid water and into their boat. The victim was taken to South Nassau Hospital for treatment of hypothermia. The victim has since made a full recovery. Due to their vigilance, bravery, and quick thinking, Officer Fosbeck, Pedersen, and Beningo were able to save the life of a 29-year-old female victim. The PBA is proud to name them legislative top cops for February 2020. Thank you.
It absolutely goes without saying that we are immensely proud of our officers here today and the fine work they do, not only in the instance that was actually demonstrated by the union president here, but what they do on a daily basis. So on behalf of Commissioner Ryder, who could not be here today, I want to thank the legislature for taking the time out to honor them today, and for the public for being here and listening to our story. We're here every day, and we want to be here to serve. Thank you very much.
Legislator Ford? I'm sorry, actually, they usually...
Did any of the officers want to say anything? Don't be shy.
I'd just like to thank the county legislators, our PBA president, and the chiefs that showed up and support us on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you, all of you, all of the officers. And I have to say that you work in a great department, and you really have excelled in what you did that night. I'm always impressed by the courage and dedication of our officers, and to be able to assess the situation within seconds and minutes definitely underscores the training that you get, and underscores the people that you are. I guess we can never comprehend why somebody wants to commit suicide, but by your quick actions, you have given this woman an opportunity to perhaps seek help and hopefully change her life and ensure a better future. So in a way, aside from being officers, you're also you're angels, that you're helping this woman and hopefully giving her family something to hang on to by having this woman. And as I said, hopefully maybe making a better future for herself. But thank you once again. You really have shown such courage, such bravery, and such dedication. That's why you're the best. Thanks.
Legislator Muley.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Legislator Ford said it so beautifully and so well, but this took place in my district, and we are a water community, and I don't think most people realize how quickly things can go wrong if someone jumps into freezing cold water. And James McDermott mentioned about going into shock, and I think that really added another layer, another element of the danger, and how quickly all of the people who were involved in the rescue and the young woman herself, how quickly they could have died. And so your bravery certainly should not go unrecognized, and I'm so pleased that you're here tonight to be recognized for that. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'd like to invite you up for a presentation. If you wouldn't mind, we'll just stay right there, and then we'll do the AI and the other presentations. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, good evening. My name is Detective Maloney of the Nassau County Detectives Association. I'd like to thank Presiding Officer Nicololo, Minority Leader Abrams, and the full legislative body for honoring a detective assigned to the FBI Task Force. Two detectives from Nassau County Narcotics Vice Bureau, who obviously cannot be here due to their undercover status, are assigned to the FBI Task Force and begin an investigation to identify and purchase firearms that were being trafficked from Virginia to New York. During a 9-month period, the detectives purchased 19 firearms, including an AR-15 multi-caliber rifle. During these gun buys, the undercover detective acted as an associate and driver for a confidential informant. The undercover detective observed the gun buys and, after the purchase, transported the firearms to safety. It was learned during the investigation that weapons were purchased in Virginia, then transported to New York to be sold. The two defendants were arrested and are being charged federally with gun trafficking conspiracy. A search warrant was conducted at one of the defendants' residences, and an additional 5 firearms were recovered. At the conclusion of the case, a total of 24 firearms were taken off the street, and a major gun trafficking operation was dismantled. The two Nassau County detectives were the lead investigators of this case and coordinated a multi-agency task force which included members of the FBI, ATF, New York State Police, Hempstead PD, and Nassau and Suffolk County Sheriff Departments. These arrests demonstrate the commitment by our detectives to save the lives by stopping the flow of illegal firearms to Nassau County. I again would like to thank the full legislative body for our continued support of the Nassau County Police Department and the Detective Division. The detectives who are not present are watching while the legislative session is being streamed live.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, for those detectives that are watching while it's being streamed live, I just have to let you know how proud we all are of your efforts. We know you can't be here to get the accolades in person, but know that everyone is behind you, and the work you do is incredibly dangerous, but incredibly productive, too, for the safety of this county. So thank you to you all, and once again, thank you to the legislature.
Thank you. Legislator Rhodes?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. To the detectives that are watching at home, you have our eternal gratitude. And one of the reasons that, as a legislature, I think all of us, I can speak for all 19 of us, look forward to the Top Cops presentations each month is because it provides us an opportunity to see some of the amazing and outstanding work that our police officers, that our detectives, that our medics do on an ongoing basis, day in and day out. Because I know that every person that stands up here as an honoree for amazing accomplishments that they've achieved on behalf of the people of Nassau County, there are 2,600 other officers and sworn members of the department that are standing behind them who accomplish amazing acts in and of themselves that go unnoticed. And you know, these are the kinds of things that you may not have the opportunity to read about in a newspaper, but they're the kind of things that we hope that the residents of Nassau County recognize and have the opportunity to see every day. And by us having our Top Cop presentations at the county legislature, it provides the chance for the information to get out there about how dedicated, how committed, how professional our sworn officers are and the amazing work that they do on an ongoing basis. To the detectives who remain unnamed, for security concerns, we owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude, obviously, that we'll never be able to repay. The particular instance here, obviously those firearms were being trafficked not for sale through a gun store and not for legal sale or distribution. Obviously they were guns that were being transported from Virginia to New York for illegal purposes to be purchased illegally. And undoubtedly used in some sort of criminal activity. It's through their hard work and through their dedication that we were able not only to just stop the sale of those 15 particular firearms, but also to be able to break up a ring which probably had in the past and could have in the future also provided other firearms into Nassau County. And it's also a beautiful example of how the Nassau County Police Department works collaboratively with federal law enforcement, with other law enforcement agencies to make sure that the people of Nassau County are kept safe. And so to those detectives and to the squad, thank you so much for what you do, and it's our honor to have your representatives here today for us on behalf of the people we represent to say thank you.
Okay. Detective Maloney, I'm not sure if you want to come up with a presentation due to the fact that the detectives are not here, but we do have citations for them. But I hope it works better for you.
Thank you. I'll accept them for them, and thank you for their comments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so the next presentation will be for the CSEA, Police Medic Unit. We have Chris Callender here.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Callender with the Police Medics. On Sunday, January 26th, a 16-year-old barricaded himself inside of his house in Old Bethpage after a verbal disagreement with his mother regarding the state of his mental well-being. He had a history of violence and recently returned home after spending time upstate at a rehab facility. While he was inside his home, he constructed a homemade explosive device that he threatened to detonate if anyone from the police department entered the home. Additionally, he sprayed lighter fluid around the home to further deter law enforcement. Police medic Brandon Leonard, He responded name is 2378, along with patrol units from the 8th Precinct, to find his mother outside of her home in a state of emotional distress. She was talking on her cell phone with a tone of panicked desperation. When Brandon inquired into who she was speaking to, she confirmed that she was speaking to her son, who was inside of the home in a dangerous mental state. Police medic Leonard, who was also a member of the Nassau County Police Department's hostage negotiation team since 2013, who also has a master's degree in forensic psychology, asked to speak with her son. Brandon led negotiations with the male for over an hour on the phone in coordination with patrol, emergency services, and the Bureau of Special Operations. Police medic Leonard successfully de-escalated the situation to the point where the 16-year-old surrendered voluntarily and walked out of the home. Due to Brandon's professionalism, skill, and calm demeanor, our Nassau County police officers, police medics, and the Old Bethpage community left the situation unharmed, and the patient was safely transported to a local hospital for evaluation.
Okay, once again, thank you for this. Our medics are our unsung heroes. They save lives every day, just as a course of doing business. Their dedication is unparalleled, and here's another example of the day-to-day sacrifice that our members put forth. He's also part of the hostage negotiation team, and they're another unsung hero in our department. You won't hear much about them because it's part of their creed not to be public, but they respond to so many instances of crisis in this county, and day in and day out, they perform an extraordinary service for everyone here. So thank you to everyone involved, and thank you once again for your time.
They want to say a few words?
Hi, thank you. I'd like to thank you for your continued support day in and day out, and for the invitation this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Legislator Walker and Legislator Drucker would like to say a few words.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for what you do day in and out. But on this particular Sunday, you had an extremely volatile situation that could have really gone very, very bad. You have, to me, a kid, 16 years old, a young person who's in a very, very bad state mentally, and obviously his mom in a panic outside, and somehow you were able to bring that situation under control with your training, with your expertise, and have a situation that really could have been very, very ugly, not just for that young man, for his mother, but for the community. God forbid, he lit that lighter fluid, and, there was fire everywhere, and, just a very, very bad situation. But with all your training, you managed to de-escalate that situation and bring it under control, and hopefully get that young man, he was taken to the hospital, and hopefully get him the additional help that he needs. And, I cannot thank you enough for that. Like I said, every opportunity I get to thank you is amazing, and certainly to our 8th Precinct officers that were there also. But this was really an extraordinary night that you had a very, very bad situation to deal with, and thank you so much for it.
Legislator Drucker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Just to echo what Legislator Walker said, I agree 100%. I happen to be personally familiar with the circumstances surrounding this incident. I'm very much well acquainted with the people involved, and I was aware of what was going on at this incident as it was unfolding that Sunday afternoon. And what you did was nothing short of a miracle, police medic. You diffused a highly volatile, emotionally charged situation. Again, I'm familiar with this young man and his mother, and it was a very difficult situation. When it first presented itself to the squad, to the 8th Precinct, they didn't know what they were facing. And it could have gone terribly sideways. And what you did was amazing, to be able to get that young man to walk out without any incident, without any violence, without any damage, went a long way to allowing this family to recover and move forward, which I have known now is proceeding in a very nice way, thanks to your efforts. So on behalf of this body and everyone else who, for unsung heroes like yourself, we owe you a debt of gratitude. You saved a lot of lives, you saved a lot of damage, you saved a lot of heartache and misery that afternoon, so thank you very much.
You know, for the people who are here for the first time and people who may be watching the streaming version of this, we do this every month. We have to recognize the top cops. And just tonight alone, we've had officers who risked their own lives by jumping into frigid waters to save an individual. We had detectives, through their expertise and brilliance, breaking up a gun trafficking operation, and we have these police medics here before us who helped to de-escalate what could have been a tragic situation. As I said, we do this every month. And we hear these stories every month. And these are extraordinary stories, but they're only a fraction of what our law enforcement personnel, our police medics, our DAI, our corrections officers do. So we are truly fortunate in this county to have such fine, dedicated men and women. So we want to thank you very much for all that you do. Jim, you want to come on up for the first presentation?
I'm sick up. Yes, thank you. Rose doesn't care. Look at Rose. Thank you. See?
Absolutely.
Rose gave me a big hug too. Yeah, that was sick.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. You are all amazing. Thank you so very much. Sorry, not like.
Good, Mike? What? Mike? Michael? Yeah. Rose is mine. Oh.
Okay, let's keep moving. All right, yes. All right, the next portion of our meeting is dedicated to recognizing Black History Month. I'm proud to introduce today's program in recognition of Black History Month, in which we highlight achievements of African American members of our Nassau County family. Tonight's honorees are representatives of the larger community. If we really wanted to recognize all those in the African American community who are making this county a better place, the Nassau Coliseum would not be large enough to hold the event. I am very proud and privileged to honor, with the members of the majority and the minority, our entire legislature, an American icon, Tuskegee Airman Mr. William Joseph Johnson. Unfortunately, Mr. Johnson could not be with us tonight. He recently had eye surgery, and up until today, he was hoping to be able to make it, but he is on the mend, but he simply could not make it here tonight. He is the fourth of 9 children, born in 1925 in North Carolina. When he was 4 years old, to escape the racism prevalent in the South at that time, his family moved to Glen Cove, Long Island. After graduating from high school in 1943, he joined the Army Air Corps. Growing up on Long Island, cradle of aviation, Mr. Johnson knew he wanted to become a pilot. He applied for the U.S. Army Air Force Flight Training Program and began training at Tuskegee Airfield in Alabama in 1984. The all-black flight school, 1944. The all-black flight school at Tuskegee, Alabama trained more than 1,000 cadets. During World War II, Tuskegee Airmen flew more than 15,000 individual sorties in Europe and North Africa and earned more than 150 distinguished flying crosses. The Tuskegee Airmen risked their lives on behalf of this nation to secure victory against America's enemies. The most extraordinary part of their heroism and courage is that they did it for a nation in which racial segregated persisted, in which their rights and dreams were routinely denied. After the war ended in Europe and through the exemplary service of this elite group of airmen, they paved the way for the racial integration of the U.S. military, resulting in President Harry Truman's executive order in 1948 mandating equality in opportunity and treatment for all in the U.S. Armed Forces. When asked about his service, Mr. Johnson said, "We performed, and we proved by our performance that it was what it was all about. It is not the color of your skin, but the content of your character that matters." His words are words to live by, and he is truly an American hero. Please join me in thanking William Joseph Johnson for his incredible service. Once Mr. Johnson has fully healed, we'll invite him back and collectively to meet with all of us, and we would be certainly honored to meet with him and to be in his presence. So, our next honoree will be presented by Legislator Deborah Muley.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm delighted and honored to be making this presentation. Dr. Zodelia Williams, affectionately known as Dr. Zoe, is the founder, executive director of 3D's Aftercare Incorporated, 3D's Empowerment Circle, LLC, and 3D's Community Empowerment Center. She is currently serving her 20th year as a New York City Department of Education social worker. Additionally, she is a Girl Scout co-leader for Troop 2305, a nurturing parent program facilitator, and she is a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. In 2018, Dr. Zoe celebrated the opening of 3D's Empowerment Center, located in Baldwin. The center is designed to empower children through programs that promote higher self-esteem, a greater sense of self-worth, and an understanding of responsibility. She is dedicated to encouraging children and giving them tools to make their dreams come true. Dr. Zoe's commitment to understanding, uplifting, equipping, and empowering others is evident through her multiple social work and public service roles. Dr. Zoe has been recognized for her humanitarian service and innovation by several organizations. Most notably, she was named the 2019 Person of the Year by the Baldwin Herald, a community-based publication, as well as the Alan Jameson Black Woman That Rocks Award and the SBC Woman of Distinction Award. Dr. Zoe, it is an honor to recognize you for your dedication and commitment to serving our community, youth, and leaders of tomorrow. And I just want to say, I've worked certainly in the community very closely with Dr. Zoe, and her commitment is palpable to the children. She wants them to have a safe environment to go to after school. She wants them to succeed, and she just took it on as her mission in life. After her full-time job, she does this as another full-time job. She funded it and got it going, and it is a big success. And I wish you nothing but success, and I thank you. Congratulations. Yes. Dr. Zoe, please say a few words.
Thank you. I just want to say that I'm honored and humbled to be here, and I find it a privilege that I'm able to be intentional about being a rainbow in the clouds of the children in our community. Thank you.
Yeah, do you want me to do this here? Okay.
I would
Oh,
just,
you brought it up.
Dr. Zoe, I'd just like to add, my background is actually early childhood education. So for what you do for these little ones, I know you said that you give them rainbow in the clouds, but I could tell you that I know, just by the smile on your face, that they give you that rainbow also. And the little ones, they can make such a difference. Their smile, just the way they look at you, can really make your day. And I know that you make their day by your smile. So thank you for all you do for them.
Legislator Vin Muscarella.
I just wanted to state that I have a group of young men here today from PAC 372 Franklin Square, Boy Scouts of America. We had Chris, Michael, Rory, and Joey, who are here to observe some of the goings-on, the government in action, and if they'd like, come up and, does anybody want to come up and say a few words? And
sorry.
Any guys?
No, they're going to politely decline, but thank you very much for having us here tonight. These guys are all moving up. Did you want to say something? Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you for having us.
You're quite welcome. So, guys, they had a suggestion for a new bill to put in. They wanted to ban homework in school, but I told them that that was something for the state legislature to take up.
Nice pivot, legislator. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having us. These boys are going to be moving on to Boy Scouts pretty soon. Maybe in a couple of years you'll have them back as Eagle Scouts.
Eagle Scouts.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Next presentation is by Legislator Steve Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I think the one theme that you've definitely heard today is the fact that each of us, and certainly the people that have been recognized today, have used their unique talents and skills to make their corner of the world a little bit better for their having been here. We've heard stories of the heroism and skill of our police and fire medics, of our detectives, the valor, dedication, and sacrifice of a heroic Tuskegee Airman, and the outstanding African-American leadership in our community, making a difference in our communities. And I also rise on a point of personal privilege to recognize some outstanding high school students that are also making a difference in their communities and who will be making a difference in their communities for years to come. Now, we have in Nassau County 2 Regeneron Science Talent Search finalists in all of Nassau County. Now, Regeneron Science Talent Search is the nation's oldest and most prestigious science competition for high school seniors, providing an important forum for original research that's recognized and reviewed by a national jury of professional scientists. Alumni of Regeneron have made extraordinary contributions to science and have earned many of the world's most distinguished science and math honors, including 13 Nobel Prizes. Annually, over 1,800 high school students, seniors from around the country, accept the challenge of conducting independent science, math, or engineering research and completing an entry for the Regeneron Science Talent Search. The competition recognizes 300 student scholars and their schools each year and invites only 40 student finalists to Washington, D.C. to participate in the final judging, display their work to the public, and meet with notable scientists and government leaders. Each year, Regeneron scholars and finalists compete for $3.1 million in awards. And as I said, in all of Nassau County, we had only 2 finalists, both of which are from my home district, and both of which are from Belmore John F. Kennedy High School. And we have both of those finalists here tonight. And the first, I would like to, we call them both up at the same time, but I'd like to recognize Andrew Britton and Catherine St. George from Belmore JFK High School, both seniors. Now, this tends to be one of the more humbling experiences because it is clear from your projects that both of you are vastly smarter than me. So I am, Andrew's project, Brian Andrew's report was on marsh restoration, ribbed mussels. I'm not going to try and pronounce the actual name, as a revival mechanism to rebuild the coastal salt marshes of Long Island, New York. Andrew, would you tell us a little bit about your project?
First, I just wanted to say a tremendous thank you for inviting us here. So my project was about marsh restoration, trying to block the damage from hurricanes. And my project essentially was around the idea that rib mussels, which are similar to clams and oysters, could be a key species in rebuilding marshes naturally when compared to synthetic storm surge barriers, one of which is proposed for the Jones Inlet, and it's $300 million. My solution is extremely cost-effective and pretty much costs nothing to do. And another part of my research was predicting the future and seeing how marshes would evolve over time. And my project suggested that by 2079, all the salt marshes on Long Island could be lost completely, which kind of shows that there's a need for ACT. And my project was the first step and the groundwork for possible action and to take against hurricanes like Hurricane Sandy. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Fantastic work.
Thank you.
Fantastic work. Yeah. Where are you going to college next year?
I'm not sure yet, actually.
Fair enough, and an incredibly important project for all of us who live on the South Shore and had to deal with Superstorm Sandy. Obviously, your research plays a key role in storm resiliency, so it's incredibly important, but an amazing job, Andrew. And Catherine, her project is the ketogenic diet ameliorates the effects of caffeine in seizures susceptible Drosophila?
Fruit flies.
Melanogaster, otherwise known as fruit flies.
Yeah.
Would have been much easier just to say fruit flies.
Sorry.
But tell us a little, please tell us a little bit about your project.
Firstly, it's just such an honor to be recognized here tonight, and we both really appreciate you having us.
It's our honor to have you.
Thank you. So for my study, I looked at the impact of different nutritional profiles, different levels of caffeine exposure, different diets on seizure susceptibility in these fruit flies. And I found that the ketogenic diet, or as it's more popularly known, keto, which is a low carbohydrate, high fat diet, can counteract the effects of caffeine in these seizure susceptible fruit flies. Caffeine increases seizure susceptibility, whereas the ketogenic diet decreases it. So I kind of established that kind of counteracting relationship between the two factors. And these findings have implications for quality of life and nutritional counseling of epilepsy patients.
Absolutely amazing. And so there is a correlation between caffeine and fruit flies and potential implications for humans.
Yeah, it's been known that caffeine does increase seizures, but the study also found that chronic exposure to caffeine as opposed to acute exposure to caffeine can actually have protective effects against seizures.
Wow, absolutely amazing. And I just, again, want to congratulate both of you. I had the chance to recognize you at the jam at the gym
Yeah.
over at Kennedy High School. But, this is, your accomplishments are so amazing that I wanted to make sure that you were recognized on a much larger scale here at the county legislature for the contributions that you're making to science and for the contributions that you're making to our community as a whole. I do also want to mention that we had one semifinalist, also from Belmore JFK High School, Kanar Gelman, who could not be with us tonight, but her accomplishments are amazing as well. Her project was chondrocyte adenosine. A2A receptor signaling leads to cellular homeostasis through activation of protein kinase, APKA. I could read the description, but I would only be pretending that I understood it. But I hope to have the chance to speak with Kanar about her project as well. And again, I want to thank you for your passion, dedication. I want to wish you luck down in Washington, D.C., because I know that you're leaving for the competition next Thursday. And hopefully you'll be bringing home a championship to Nassau. But best of luck to both of you, and congratulations. And I have citations from the county legislature for you both.
Thank you so much.
Great job.
Steve's going to do the presentation. All righty then. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Now move it to our public comment portion of our meeting, which will, it will last an hour if that's the time that's used. It's 8 o'clock now, so if it goes beyond 9, we'll break and go to the full legislature and come back later. First speaker is Richard Clolery.
Again, sorry. To the members of the legislature, as you're all aware, starting next month, there will be no more plastic shopping bags given out. This, I feel, is a great first step, but it's not the only step that we need to take to combat littering here on the island, especially stuff that gets into our water. Another step is to place garbage cans and maintaining them, especially in areas where there should be no dumping, and yet there is. I've seen a lot of it as I pass by to and from where I live. I go by one of those areas, you know, which says, dump here and you get a fine. Anyway. If people, for whatever reason, the reason fails to use them, there should be ticketing enforcement. And my suggestion for the proceeds from these fines should be used to increase funding for the buses so that the lines that were cut can be restored. Just a suggestion. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Richard. Stephen Edmondson.
Wait, any other comments from you guys?
No, thank you for your comments, Steve.
No problem.
Richard. Stephen Edmondson.
I'm a coming. I say hello to the people I know and hello to the people I don't know and the people from Facebook. And Denise Porter gave me a citation but spelled my name wrong. Only by one day. We have a homeless problem, and I ought to know because I'm homeless and I'm in the shelter, run by Daphne Haynes, who drives a Jaguar, and we're lucky if we get milk, bread, and peanut butter in the house. And 19 people I invite you to come down to DSS to find out what these people are doing and not doing, because it's not a textbook situation. My mother died. I had a 4-bedroom house in Oceanside. I lived in the Jones Beach Hotel in Montauk. Steve Rose knows because we talked about that place. And now I'm in a homeless shelter, which are jagging my Social Security check, and they want $5, $60, $70 a month for rent. Where we have criminals, which you know with the bail reform, they're not hanging around East Meadow, they're coming to the shelters. And the buses, you want us to get a job, you got to get these buses into order because they're terrible. The only good thing about the bus, you don't have to worry about the terrorism because you never know when the bus is coming. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Edmondson. Liz Boylan.
Good evening, Liz Boylan, volunteer with the Rockville Central Coalition for Youth. I have in front of us a placard that was put together based on a conference my coordinator and I, Ruth Ann McCormick, attended in Washington, D.C. with 3,200 members of communities against, it's coalitions against anti-drug initiatives. And what we did was we basically were given the mission to come back and to share and educate with you what we were advised. Much of it was very, very sobering. One of the big problems is that the media does not report on the negative impacts regarding the legalization of non-medical marijuana. I guess I should have stated that's the reason why I'm up here. And the board I have in front of you is broken up into 3 sections. It's basically a marijuana advisory. We were given data on marijuana 101, how it's used, the risks, the low perception of risk on the major populations using it, which are teens and pregnant women. It's eaten, which has a slow onset but a long impact. It's also smoked, which is a fast onset and a short impact. The concentrates, they went from 4% potency up to 80% today. So there was a lot of data there that was given us that we feel we really would like for you to take and consider before any further initiatives are taken on this. And our youth are the ones that are suffering. In terms of the consequences, as you can see, many of the consequences have to do with, in Oregon, for instance, their cannabis office, they had a failed audit in January of 2019 due to lack of staffing, lack of inspections, lack of appropriate lab tests, emergency room visits due to many was poisonings. In 2015, there was 5,494 visits to the ER, all cannabis related. In 2016, they went up to 8,532. I think when people talk about the marijuana, you know, non-medical marijuana, and they think, oh, it's just about smoking a few joints. It's really about the normalization. If you look at the middle of it, the commercialization and normalization includes social clubs, pot cafes, deliveries. There was actually an online sales where the trucks, they advertise online, but when they actually come, they respect your privacy, so they're not marked. One of the other issues we had was, there's also cannabis resorts. So this is kind of normalizing the use of this very dangerous, powerful, potent drug, which in our current legislation has no cap on potency and no cap on dosage. The consequences to that, you've heard, is the impaired drug driving. You know what the statistics are there. But there's something in particular I just wanted to draw your attention to, because I just read in Newsday and the Long Island Press, there were two mothers who were for legalizing marijuana. But there is a website and a group. I want all of you to just write this website down. It's called Moms Strong, and it's momstrong.org. And their whole mission, and it's very compelling, and we met some of these mothers at the conference, they are telling their stories, unmasking the marijuana charade, to make the public aware of marijuana harms by sharing the stories of how our youth are experiencing devastating mental and physical health effects from using marijuana. They're a group of moms who have seen the damages to their teenagers and young children. While pot advocates promote their stories, how safe it is, they have experienced anxiety, panic attacks, and suicide. Now, they do have a qualifier. Not all weed users have or will experience the horrific consequences from using the potent strains of today's marijuana. But their hope is that their website will find parents who have witnessed these horrors and hopefully share their stories and save somebody else. We have alternatives. Decriminalization, make it work, tweak the law, and we have prevention. Prevention is not prohibition. It's about providing information, education, and facts to make decisions. And our own Surgeon General has come out about the importance of protecting our nation from the health risks of marijuana. It's also about decreasing the misperceptions of the safety of marijuana and danger to protect our youth, who are not the leaders of tomorrow. They are our leaders of today. So I asked, since we have limited time, please come look at that placard and please consider some of the information that does not get out into the media on a daily basis. Thank you.
And Liz, I just want to say that I'm privileged to have Liz and Ruth Ann, who's I believe going to speak next, Ruth Ann McCormick. You might as well come right up as well. In my district, and it's been an absolute revelation and a wonderful thing to see the work that these ladies have put into just good things, just trying to make sure that our children grow up safe, happy, and healthy. I know that this takes away from anything else that they're doing. It takes away from their time, their families. They travel. They've been in. Just came back from D.C. for how long? For 10 days?
10 days.
10 days, and it's all for this altruistic, wonderful purpose. And I can't say thank you enough for what you all do, what you and both of you do, and for the volunteers that you bring with you and who work with you to accomplish these wonderful tasks. we certainly, all of us here, hope for your continued success.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll leave the placard over there, and I ask that if you can just on your break, just glance at it, take a look at it, because it will provide you with some interesting data.
Thank you. Ruth Ann?
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for letting us speak. I'm going to go over a little bit about what Liz talked about and elaborate more on the fiscal, the cost versus the revenue. All of you have a packet that I put together that has all of the information in it. I'm going to specifically hit on the revenue. Should I start the timer?
Sure. Let's go.
Okay. Question remains, what are New York's protected costs to 62 counties, 932 towns, 62 cities, 10 Native American reservations, over 3,400 local governments, 514 police departments, 950 school districts with 4,800 individual schools? Only 5% of the monies deposited in the New York State Medical Cannabis Trust Fund shall be transferred to the Office of Addiction Services and Supports, which shall use that revenue for additional drug abuse prevention, counseling, and treatment services. 5% to all those places that need help with treatment and education to prevent our youth from starting drugs and alcohol and progressing into addicts, which many often do. They start with marijuana. Not every heroin addict, not every marijuana user says, I'm going to become a heroin addict, but mostly every heroin addict has started with marijuana. Only 5% of the monies deposited in the New York State Medical Cannabis Trust Fund shall be transferred to the Division of Criminal Justice Services, which can be used for discretionary grants towards personal costs of state and local law enforcement agencies. Only 5% to all our law enforcement. Think about it. They're already overburdened. How are they going to handle this when this happens? Governor Cuomo, in 2017, he made a statement in February 2017, 3 years ago. It's a gateway drug, and marijuana leads to other drugs, and there's a lot of proof that that's true. Today, he would ignore the experiences of other states, medical science, law enforcement, and substance abuse professionals to ram commercialized weed through the legislature. So think about it. Think about the kids. We just heard about 2 young people suffering. We have many, many, many more that you don't know the stories about. Rockville Center, suicide is an epidemic. Another youth from Oceanside committed suicide a week ago Sunday, a senior in high school with his whole life ahead of him. We've had 2 overdoses, fatal overdoses in Rockville Center since the beginning of the year. This marijuana legalization is not going to help make anything better. It's going to cause more problems. We're having a town hall on March 10th where we hope to educate more of the community about the dangers of this happening. We're having a speaker, Alex Berenson, who wrote a book, Parents, Tell Your Children the Truth About Marijuana, Mental Illness, and Violence. We had him scheduled in Rockville Center at the school district. Parents revolted. They said, oh, he doesn't have real facts. His data is not backed up by science, but it is. We found out they were invested in the marijuana industry and part of these moms that want to regulate marijuana. Okay? What message are they sending to their kids? One of the moms quoted from Newsday on the 9th. Our kids are already vaping marijuana. If it's legal, it'll be safer. What they're vaping is not safe. At least it'll be safer. That's not true. In states that are legal, the marijuana that's sold in pot shops that are being vaped have caused deaths. The DEA, they said the cartels want marijuana legalized in states. It'll make their businesses grow, make it easier for them, to get in on this legalized trade. So we are just going to be victimized by more organizations. Our children are going to be victimized by advertisements. And one youth that we met at the conference from a state that's been legalized a few years, from Oregon, she said, what am I supposed to do when my friend's mom is actually selling pot to high school kids? Who do I tell about that? Is there going to have to be adjustments in our social hosts law? We already have it for alcohol. We'll have to make adjustments for parents that provide marijuana. What about the kids that bring it to school and give it to their friends? Their friends think it's a cookie. They overdose on it. What about scromiting? Now, scromiting is a syndrome that people are getting where they're screaming and vomiting at the same time due to heavy marijuana use. And it's happening mainly to our young people. Moms have spoken about how their kids have lost 30, 40 pounds. You know, they'll stop using marijuana, then go back to it, and it starts all over again. So please, take a look at Liz's poster. This actually looks like a Marlboro box, but it has all the facts on it. Big Tobacco is behind this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ruth Ann. Legislator
Sure.
Gaylor.
Well, thank you. Liz and Ruth Ann, thank you for all that you do. It's a monumental task, obviously, to travel up and down the roads to Albany, but you have to keep doing it, okay? It's that important, what you're doing. The legalization of marijuana, you know, it's going to come to us again in the form through the state, in a budget bill, and what I firmly believe is that because of your efforts, maybe the governor's not going to take out that opt-out provision so that Nassau County can opt out of this, because this is, I don't think this is the way that our constituents in our legislative district want to see the future of our county and our state go. So you're doing a great job, no doubt about it, and just keep doing what you're doing, okay, and keep being vocal. It's that
Thank
important.
you. We're
okay?
hoping what will happen last year is where they took it out and they didn't come to a agreement at
Yeah.
the last minute.
Yeah.
So that's what we're hoping for again. Thank
Yes,
you.
So am I. As long as we have a voice here in Nassau County, I'm standing with you, so you're good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dean Basigalupo.
Hello? Okay. My name is Dean Baccialupo. I'm a trustee with the Allen Park Public Library. I wish to speak to you this evening in regard to the tax dispute of the Barrett Power Plant, which is located within the library service area. The Allen Park Public Library has maintained a long and successful history of providing quality programs and resources to all members of the Allen Park community, from preschool-age children to senior citizens, as well as individuals of all socioeconomic backgrounds and cultures. It's not uncommon for our library. This past year, we reported to New York State over 100,000 visits, and that's after subtracting our staff coming and going to the library each day. The library has been resilient and tenacious in its goal to serve its residents well. We frequently meet with them. That's why we're having so much success. They let us know what they need, and we build those programs into our library programming. As you know, the library suffered significant damage as a result of Superstorm Sandy, including flooding of the entire first floor. We had to close for many months while the library was painstakingly restored. The days the doors reopened to the community was one of great pride and celebration in Island Park. I know Mrs. Ford was there to celebrate with us. Now the library is facing a new challenge in light of the Barrett Power Plant tax dispute. Representatives of the library attended the January 15th meeting held at the Island Park School District, at which a proposed settlement agreement between Nassau County and the Long Island Power Authority was presented to the Island Park community. Nassau County Executive Laura Curran was there. She introduced the members on the stage. She stated that she has been working very closely over the past year at putting the settlement together with the members of the LIPA board. It was the first time the Island Park Public Library learned about that. Prior to the meeting, in fact, we sent over 20,000 letters collectively from members of our community to County Executive Curran, to members of the LIPA Board of Trustees, and to other key figures to inquire about the impact of the dispute on the library. However, the Island Park Public Library did not receive a response. The library's representatives were likewise disturbed when at that January 15th meeting, no mention was made of the effect of the Barrett Power Plant tax dispute on the library. A PowerPoint was presented. It showed the impact on the school district and other various government entities. There was nothing on any of those slides about the impact to the Island Park Public Library. Indeed, when I inquired about this during the question and answer portion of the meeting, it was clearly evident that LIPA, specifically Mr. Falcone, had no familiarity with the library, had no numbers to share regarding the settlement's impact of the library, and really was unaware that the library would be affected by this decision. Moreover, while there are several pieces of pending legislation that address the Barrett Power Plant dispute and other LIPA challenges, these proposals do not appear to address the impact on our library or any affected library on Long Island. Since that meeting, the library has obtained information from Nassau County about the projected pilot payments it might receive under the proposed settlement. Those numbers are cause for alarm. The glide path, as it's called, reduction in the pilot will create a structural deficit for the library that will be difficult to fill and presents the library with a Hobson's choice of significantly increasing the tax burden on its constituents, many of whom survive on a fixed income, or being forced to cut critical programs, including those that serve seniors, young children, and our community at large. In light of all this, we respectfully request an opportunity for representatives of the library to meet with representatives of LIPA, to meet with representatives of this county legislature, or members of the state legislature to ensure the potential effects of the Barrett Power Plant tax dispute on the library are understood before any proposed settlements are finalized through legislation from Nassau County. The patrons of our public library deserve the same advocacy and representation given to the affected school districts and given to the LIPA Board of Trustees. I want to thank you for your time and for your attention to this critical matter.
Dean, over here, Legislator Ford. Thank you very much. I know your library very well, and I have to say that you do an excellent job, and everybody, the staff and everybody on the board really has made that library such an integral part of the Island Park community, and even those of us of Long Beach come over to use your library as well. And you know, at times I've even brought my grandson there, so we do enjoy it, especially when you have reading day, and then, of course, last year when you hatched the eggs, that was really the highlight when he got to see the, I guess the ducks or something, you know, get hatched. Just to let you know that right now, that settlement that was negotiated by the county executive with LIPA basically is in limbo at this point. The state legislature, as you know, is looking at passing legislation that will impact LIPA's ability to recoup the back taxes, although that was in the settlement negotiated by the county executive, that they would give up the county guarantee. And yes, I think that we need to look, and I think that since we were not part of the settlement, we were not part of the negotiations at all.
You and us both.
Yeah, the legislators who are in the affected areas, I think that, you know, I could speak for those of us here that we will definitely look into it. But at this point, we don't know where we are with this whole issue, you know, because we're waiting. We can't do anything, you know, as the state is looking at this. And we're just hoping at this point that there is no determination made by the judge in regard to, because we know that that judge is deliberating, especially on the Huntington tax grievance filed by LIPA. So right now, we don't know. I don't even, but we're not going to call it because we don't know if we can or not.
It will not be called with the Senate bill, which apparently has passed the Senate. We are not going to move ahead on the settlement until we get clarification on the state as to whether that bill will become an assembly bill, whether it gets passed by the signed by the governor, if both houses pass it, whether it gets withdrawn. So we right now are 100% relying on the state action to determine what our next step is.
And I appreciate that, but I think from the public library's perspective, I mean, we can't, obviously, if it's an imperfect settlement, we'll have difficult decisions to make with our community, but the process itself should not be imperfect. And I think the Island Park Public Library deserves the opportunity to sit down with the Nassau legislature before any vote is taken.
We will reach out to the county executive, but at this point, I mean, with the settlement, and I think that that will be something that we will bring up to her, considering when we look at if the settlement goes through, you know. But there is a possibility that during this time, if the judge does determine or makes a decision on these cases brought by LIPA, there may not be a glide path. You know, I think that people don't understand in regard to this is that LIPA grieved their assessed value on the plants. And it is common belief that they had justification and that their assessed value will be reduced. I think what the county was trying to do was, instead of like when people grieve their assessments, like everybody else in the area would then have to make up the lost revenue and taxes that they're not going to pay anymore. And I think what they were trying to do was to make it so that it would gradually go up rather than all of a sudden in October or April.
And I think that's where the library needs to be heard on this, because LIPA is guaranteeing about $80 million as part of that settlement to affected areas. But to the public library, the $300,000 they're taking away will absolutely devastate our programming. We don't get state aid. We don't get funding from New York State. That $300,000 means programs for seniors, children, and other people in the community will be cut. In light of an $80 million settlement, I don't think a few $100,000 is, something that shouldn't be discussed.
I agree with you, and thanks for bringing that to our attention, because we weren't involved in it, so we're trying to get through all the innuendos and everything levels. So I know we have some people here from a budget review office that I'll ask them to take a look at what we've learned so far with the settlement, and we will definitely advocate for you.
I really appreciate that.
Want to keep you in business.
No, you've been an asset to our community, and we appreciate
so
all
have
you
you.
do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pete Gaffney.
Good evening. Pete Gaffney, Westbury Carl Place School District. At the last legislative full session, I brought two safety issues up. I'm going to bring them up again today because nothing's really transpired. Meadowbrook Parkway underpass at Westbury Avenue. It's a garbage dump. And when I brought it up and I showed pictures and things like that, the very next day, one shopping cart with garbage that was in it, and also a bathroom, I think a urinal, was removed. The rest of the stuff is still there. I was told today that the state ended up cleaning it up. Well, they didn't. They lied. It's really a dangerous area that's over there. I mean, I've been working with various departments. I call them up and ask them when they're going to clean it in the spring and in the fall. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Last year there was hypodermic needles that were found, so the state police had to get involved because it was on state property. So, I mean, it's a real safety hazard that's over there. People do walk by, and anybody can jump out, especially when the vegetation is overgrown, okay? That's the first thing. Second thing is the third track project. Now, these guys, they know how to build a railroad, but when it comes to traffic safety, they don't know what they're doing. And I can tell you that from experience based on the Cherry Lane fiasco that they've done over there. I'm fighting with them right now because they removed all the no parking signs on Cherry Lane. And they've put them back, but you can't read them. Same thing now is happening on Glen Cove Road, which is a county road. I had showed you pictures last time of two handicap signs over here, no parking. They're missing now totally. I took these pictures today just to show you the safety hazard. Somebody on the north side heading towards where the bridge is going to be built, that area is blocked off, so at least somebody can cross safety. On the south side, walking north, they have a little sign that says detour. It's in the middle of Glen Cove Road. There's no traffic congestion. There's no notification. Someone who's going to try to cross the street is going to get killed. All right, here's the pictures. So, I mean, you need to do something. I asked last time, what was the actual presentation that they gave to the Nassau DPW. And I asked them to give me a reason, what's actually going to go on and how it's going to affect my community and the safety of all the residents over there. I got a mumbo-jumbo gobbledygook answer over here, and they actually have said nothing. So this is something you need to get involved, because I'm going to tell you, somebody's going to die over there. I'm going to leave you with these pictures, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Melissa Robbins.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Melissa Robbins, and I thank you all for allowing this opportunity to speak on issues that we care about. I came here tonight to talk about the proposal to include legalized marijuana into New York State's budget. As a mother, as a public servant, as a former soldier in the United States Army, I'm a bit floored that here I am fighting against our government to protect our citizens. I never thought that day would come, but here we are. So, legalizing marijuana. Why the urgency? Why the need to push it through right now? Who stands to benefit the most, and who will be disproportionately impacted by the legalization of recreational marijuana? The great green rush. The great green rush, the great money grab, the amount of revenue that it takes to invest into dispensaries, cultivating, distribution, growing. Who has the infrastructure to invest to get their return on the investment? We hear time and time again, this is about social justice. This is about criminal justice reform. Is it really? If we really care about our black and brown communities, can we not legalize marijuana? We've seen in history what has happened when big tobacco and big alcohol have gotten into the industry. Case in point, Philip Morris once lied and deceived Americans for years and years and years. Many of us in this room, I'm sure, have lost loved ones to cigarette use. Tobacco in its rare form will not kill you. After it's commercialized into a cigarette, we all know what happens. Alcohol, it's legal, but who wants to get in a car with someone who's been drinking, right? How many people lose their lives each and every year? You guys, I'm sure you have nieces and nephews and children. You fear for their lives when they're out there driving because someone's being irresponsible with alcohol. There's no proven test on the market right now that can determine the amount of THC that someone has in their body while they're operating their vehicle. That does not exist. Our law officers, if they pull someone over and they smell it, how are they going to properly conduct a test to figure out how much this person has consumed? Not only that, look at our black neighborhoods. All that we see is alcohol and cigarette advertisements littered all over the neighborhoods, unhealthy foods. So now when we add marijuana to the fold, now all of a sudden we have marijuana dispensaries in our neighborhoods. It's our children, it's our families that will be glazed and dazed and confused and not out there being ambitious and accessing any kind of opportunity for upward mobility. Who's going to be the new drug dealers of America? Is it going to be white men in suits who say, it's okay now, it wasn't okay for you then, but it's okay for us now because we say it, we're in suits and you can trust us? This is egregious. And for anyone in the New York State legislature to agree with this is an embarrassment to public service. People vote them in office to protect their communities and to make us look good. How dare they try to deceive us into thinking that legalizing marijuana will generate tax revenue, and then we'll take that tax revenue and we'll invest it back into drug prevention. None of us are stupid here. We're all very smart and highly intelligent people. The bottom line is this. This is about money. When I'm on Capitol Hill, all that I hear is the Safe Banking Act. So people with millions and billions of dollars can have their money safe, invest it into the marijuana industry, and get the return on their investment. At whose expense? Your community, your teenager, my community, we will all be harmed in this. For anyone to say the legalization of recreational marijuana is a good thing for America, they are not patriots. And it's an assault on our community, it's an assault on our country, and I have no respect for any legislator that tells me that it is okay to legalize it. We haven't even seen enough statistics and data from other states who have legalized. What's the cost? Young black men are still being arrested out in Colorado at high incident rates for public usage. Look at how much money they're saying that it's going to project. How much is it going to cost us? New York has an opportunity to be here. When you guys sneeze, the rest of the country gets the flu. You have an opportunity to lead. Do the right thing by your constituents. Don't allow this to happen on your watch. No one's going to benefit from this. Our kids are not going to go on to be great thinkers and great leaders. They're going to be high, and they're going to be in another state of mind. And it will be years before we as Americans realize the damage that we've done. Do the right thing and get behind people like Liz and Ruth Ann. Thank you.
Ms. Robbins, Ms. Robbins? Ms. Robbins, quick question. You're from New York City, correct? That's the address you put down.
No, sir. I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, ground zero of heroin. In my city, we see people walking around sticking needles in daylight. So I work here in the state of New York.
Okay. I was going to suggest that you run for mayor, but
I care about our country. I care about all of our people. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Mina Meriday?
Good evening. I'm sure it would have been quite interesting if I didn't show up for a night meeting, but I'm glad to see that others are here, and I'm hoping that the legislature continues to have others just to make it convenient for more residents to be able to participate. I'm so happy to be able to follow behind the warrior and the soldier who stood before you previously, and I, too, am here with regard to, again, our veterans and our underserved veterans in this county and in this country, and I'm still questioning as it pertains to the business development component. And again, what I'm hoping to see in our upcoming budget with regard to some increases that are actually tangible as it pertains to creating business opportunities so that we can create jobs for our veterans, since we have collectively, with Nassau and Suffolk counties combined, the largest veteran population in the Northeast corridor. It saddened me to know that within New York State, you know, when others talk about 5% of, and I can wait because, you know, I may go over the 5 minutes, but I would appreciate having this time since I still need clarification as to the public comment changes that happened here. But with regard to the funding processes from New York State, when we always talk about getting funding from New York State, and the New York State budget for the Division of Veteran Services was $19.1 million, I didn't say billion, $1 million for their Division of Veteran Services for a budget that was over $100 billion. So you figure the math. So if we're complaining about not having at least 5% to address services for those with substance abuse, how do you think our 200,000 veterans in New York State, with the majority of them coming from Nassau and Suffolk counties, feel that they're getting less than 1% of the state budget? So again, I'm hoping that the Nassau County budget does not reflect the dismal numbers coming from New York State as we look towards that process. I would like to give a positive shout out, as they say, to the parking issue here. So I commend the legislature for taking heed to the fact that those of us who come here would have the opportunity to park close as opposed to possibly taking a bus, because the way you guys cut down on the busing routes, that would have been a problem as well. So parking has become a little bit more accessible, so I do want to acknowledge public safety for doing that. Let's talk about the roads. Let's talk about the roads. We pay the second highest taxes in the country. The roads are atrocious. I would concur with my colleague, Pearl Jacobs, from the Nostrand Garden Civic Association in our neighboring community of Uniondale, to take a tour bus for all 19 of you and Mr. Arnold as it pertains to what the condition of the utilities are doing on our county as well as town roads. It's nice that we see the press releases and the photo ops when we talk about shared services between the towns and the counties, but let's start with the roads. Because the only other people that are making money, besides sometimes relatives of our politicians, not all of you, but some of you, are the mechanics that have to repair our cars because of the treacherous conditions that we have to face to drive around in Nassau County, which used to be known for its beautiful roads. So if I look at this tagline with the current administration making it affordable and livable and accessible, it's a disgrace. We need to do something about that. Lastly, I would again want to address the fact that veteran services in Nassau County, we have to improve upon the services that our Nassau County Office of Veteran Services, for what they get, is very commendable for the work that they do, but they need more. They need more of the time, they need more of the resources, and they need the space. We have a public facility that has been going through more changes than the expression Carter has liver pills. We have an opportunity to possibly address that and also address what we have been lacking in our veteran support. But we need to look outside of the state and look at the federal government, since they did a 9.6 increase in the federal funding within the VA budget. Let's start thinking outside the box. We've got all these elected officials. We've got the unions that are looking to do this. We have our veterans that need to do this. The Nassau County Medical Center is more accessible than any other facility in this county. Let's be proactive and make this happen. And lastly, I do have cake, because one of the other things I do besides coming here, I'm out here in the trenches dealing with the veterans here. And all of you will get a copy of a service that I coordinated yesterday for a veteran who is formerly homeless, and he died about 6 weeks ago. And again, thanks to the efforts of county representatives, Ralph Esposito, Paul Broderick, and Social Services, and unfortunately now I have taken on the moniker of helping any of our veterans who are lost and do not have resources for proper burial, because I refused to let this man be rested in the morgue at South Nassau Hospital. So together with volunteers and resources, including the Nostrand Garden Civic Association, we were able to give this gentleman a memorial service yesterday in Elmont at American Legion Hall, 1033, Murray Grease, U.S. Air Force. You will all get a copy of the program. This is what I prefer to do versus being here to fight for those who go out to fight for us. And I also have cake out back, because I had a whole sheet cake, courtesy of Nostrand Garden. So I'm not trying to take it home, okay? And I got plates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sure, Minority Leader Abrahams.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Ken, if you could come to the dais, because this seems to be a recurring issue with the utilities, and I know it pertains to Jerusalem Avenue, as Ms. Merriday had mentioned. I'll wait for you to come up. Hey, Ken. So I remember at the last meeting you had said that there's obviously some public utility work that's occurring on some of the streets in Uniondale, primarily Jerusalem Avenue. Now we're a month removed from that last time. Do we have any definitive understanding of when that work will be completed?
Well, they can't do final patching in the winter. So everything that the utilities are doing right now, which is part of the problem, is temporary patches. A good example is just by my house on Milburn Avenue, the Nat Grid is running new pipes, so they have temporary patches that are all throughout the community. Once the spring comes and they're finished, they'll come back and they'll do the final restoration.
So the work is done? The work that they were there to rip up the road is completed?
I'd have to double check on my guys. I believe that most of it is done. I don't know for a fact if it's all done. I'd have to go speak with them.
So we should anticipate in the spring that they'll come back and do final patching. And if the patching is not to the satisfaction of the county, meaning that the road is still rough,
they would have to repair it, yes.
They would have to repair it.
Yes.
And your office makes that determination, and you can impose that to the utilities?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you. Pearl Jacobs.
Good evening. Just to, okay. So my issue is, again, like you stated, Legislator Abrahams, it's been a month since I've been here. I was promised some feedback and some responses, which I did not receive from anyone. So here I am back again, status of Jerusalem Avenue. And my question is, why has the Uniondale Communities called for county review of this severely compromised and unsafe roadway go unanswered? You know, I asked for the county to come out and assess the situation. That has not happened. And why doesn't the county hold PSE&G and Nat Grid accountable for leaving our roadways in such deplorable conditions? And who in Nassau County is responsible for oversight and sign-off regarding these projects, AKA quality control? So I have not received any answers whatsoever in the last month that I've been here. No feedback, not even an email that said, hi, we're working on it, nothing, zilch. So I'm leaving these questions here. Okay? And will I get feedback this time, or just...
Sounds like we have to confer with the Department of Public Works. Other than what Mr. Arnold just said, we could take a look at your questions and we'll review them.
So why hasn't anyone from the county come out just to look at it like I asked? Okay.
I think Mr. Arnold said that he had some of his workers that were there, and he had just said that he felt that the work was completed, and he agrees.
It's not completed. We have craters. We have.
Ms. Jacobs, what I'm saying is the work has been completed in regards to what PSE&G was there to do. Not talking about the road being repaved.
It was a deplorable job. It's deplorable.
But,
okay.
but his response was that they put down temporary patches. I don't know if you heard what he said.
It's not a patch. It's deplorable. Okay. So I don't know what he's looking at. Okay, because where he's talking about, where I'm referring to, is deplorable. And I'm going to state again, it is the observation and opinion of residents that these types of substandard road restorations are primarily performed in areas where the population is overwhelmingly majority minority. So on to issue 2. Legislator Abrahams. What is the status regarding the Uniondale community's request for cameras to be placed on Uniondale Avenue? At last November's joint meeting with your office, the Nassau County Police Department, Nancy Skeet, President of Uniondale Community Council, and myself, Nancy and I provided a myriad of examples of nuisance crimes and quality of life violations that substantiates our strong request for cameras to be installed on Uniondale Avenue. My takeaway from that meeting was that the police were very supportive of this request, and at the time, so were you. Everyone at the meeting agreed with documented facts that where camera surveillance is utilized, crime rates decrease. You, Legislator Abrahams, closed the meeting stating that you would give the Nassau County Police Department time to research what this project would entail for Uniondale, and a follow-up meeting would convene sometime in January. We are now heading into March, and when will this follow-up meeting be held?
It'll take place as soon as possible.
As soon as possible?
Yes.
Okay. And will I get an email regarding?
You will be notified, like everyone that is a stakeholder, Ms. Jacobs. You will be notified. The bottom line is we are still in the process of working with the commissioner to make sure that we could put the proper funding as well as the infrastructure in place. As you know from that meeting, it was a very complex ability to do that in terms of negotiation on where the actual cameras would go and on which poles they would go on, whether the county had authorization to do so. So we will let you know when that meeting takes place. Nothing, I agree, I will reemphasize, nothing will take place without the community stakeholders being at the meeting. That includes yourself as well as all the stakeholders.
And that would be fine. But can I ask the question, Legislator Abrahams, why don't I receive any sort of feedback, updates, anything from your office?
There's no feedback to give, Ms.
Well, you could say, well, we're still in the process of investigation. You could say something to that effect.
Okay. We could give you those kinds of emails. That's not a problem. But the bottom line is we'd rather do something that's more concrete.
Well, I like the lines of communication to stay open so I can, and getting to issue 3.
Go ahead.
Issue 3, the membership of the Nostrand Garden Civic Association will be holding a joint representative forum at our April 6th meeting, so that residents can present their concerns to their elected officials in a politically unified forum without the frustration of being referred to other elected officials. So I'm inviting you to that forum, Legislator Abrahams, April 6th, 7 p.m. at the Uniondale Library. I will send you a reminder email, and this is your invitation. Thank you.
Okay, our public comment period is over. We're going to move to the calendar. The first item that I'm going to call is item 16, resolution number 18 of 2020. It's a resolution to confirm the county executive's appointment of Donald Clavin to the Long Island Regional Planning Council. Moved by Legislator Ferretti, seconded by Legislator McKenzie. So that, McKevin. The appointments before us, Supervisor Clavin, why don't you come up just to say a couple of words.
I just wanted to come up and say thank you, first and foremost, to the county executive for the nomination of the appointment, to both you, Rich, and to Kavan, and to all the members of the legislature, as well as the Regional Planning Council. It's a very important position. I look forward to working with all my colleagues on it, with my friend John Cameron, and everybody about the future of Long Island and about working together. And that's something that, if I will cherish that, if everybody is willing to vote for this, it will be the only time I'll probably get all 19 of you to ever vote for me for anything in my entire life, and I'll be proud of it. But it's something that I think it sends a great message. Like I said, I first applaud the county executive for reaching out and talking to me about the appointment, and I appreciate all of you for your hopeful support on it, because there's a lot to be done. And as my motto is by working together, all of you have demonstrated, and all of us can demonstrate, we can get a lot more done than by fighting. So, again, appreciate this, and I appreciate, hopefully, the support of everybody along the way. But, Carrie, I do mean it. If everybody votes me, I am going to frame it and hang it up in the office, because it's going to be a cherished moment in my life. Thank you all very, very much.
All right. Thank you. Well, yeah, we're looking forward to you serving Supervisor Clavin on the Long Island Regional Planning Council. The work they're doing is indispensable and important for our county now and for the future. We have leaders such as John Cameron, Rich Guardino, who've done a fantastic job, but I really think that your input and your participation is going to make the council even stronger. So, anyone else have any comments? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? You got it. 19-0. Now we're going to move to the consent calendar. These are items that went through the committees a couple of weeks ago, and we agreed between the majority and minority that these items do not require any further debate or discussion, and they will be voted on in a block. First item, number 4, ordinance 11. Number 5, ordinance number 12. Number 6, ordinance 13. Number 7, ordinance 14. Number 8, ordinance 15. Number 9, ordinance 16. Number 10, ordinance 17. Number 11, ordinance 18. Number 12, ordinance 19. Number 14, ordinance 16. I always do that. Resolution 16. 17, resolution 19. 18, resolution 20. 19, resolution 21. 20, resolution 22. 21, resolution 23. 22, resolution 24. 23, resolution 25. And that's it. Moved by Legislator Bino, seconded by Legislator Schaefer. Those items are all before the legislature. Anyone want to have any debate or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the items carry unanimously. Go back to number 1, which is a hearing on a proposed local law to amend the Nassau County Administrative Code to require the Nassau County Police Department to prepare a quarterly crime report to the legislature and county executive. Moved by Legislator Gaylor, seconded by Legislator Ford. This law, proposed law, would require a quarterly report to the county executive and legislature regarding certain information in connection with the state's criminal justice reform. First off, it requires a report on the number of defendants released without bail in Nassau, the charges and description of the alleged crime. So this relates to who is being released. For these defendants released without bail, the report requires the number of bench warrants issued for failure to attend court, including the description of the crime allegedly committed by the person who is being released. So this requires a report on how many are failing to show up after they've been released on bail, show up in court. Third category is number of crimes committed committed by defendants while released without bail, the charges and description of crimes being committed. Again, this relates to how many crimes are being committed by those who are out on bail, those who are out without bail. The report does not require and cannot contain information as to the defendants, witnesses, victims. The reports are not required to show where the crimes are committed or the residences of those who are committing them. So why would we want this data? And I think basically the case had been made, and actually the idea for this came from statements made by some of the sponsors of the state legislation who are arguing that that the public and the state and the outcry is a rush to judgment. So, for example, Senator Generis, one of the prime sponsors, accused critics of fear-mongering with almost no data and just anecdotal stories. And we've all seen in the newspapers weekly, sometimes daily, the stories. So his point was we can't just rely on the stories, the anecdotes, you need the data. More recently, the Speaker of the House of the Assembly, Hasty, stated that with respect to whether or not the law should be revised, he stated, you need real data, real information, not cherry-picked stories and sensationalized events to try to paint the picture as to whether the law is working or not. I think we should be cautious and wait for data before we react to anything. So the entire purpose of this legislation is to gather that data and to be able to present, if I think what it's going to show, to present to our state legislators real data, not just anecdotal stories, which I think will help us to convince our representatives in Albany that there needs to be a change. There is an amendment, and we can get into that, but does anyone else have any comments at this time? All right. The amendment is an amendment in the nature of a substitution, which requires the Nassau County Police Department to request information required to complete this local law's reporting requirements from appropriate local, state, and federal agencies. Legislator Rhodes makes that amendment. All right, I've been corrected. Actually, we cannot make the amendment here, so during the course of the hearing, we will do that when the item is actually before us. Does any legislators want to speak on this? Do any legislators want to speak on this? Okay, all right. Do any members of the public want to speak on this hearing? Hearing none, we will need a motion to close the hearing, which will be moved by Legislator Drucker and seconded by Legislator Birnbaum. All in favor of closing the hearing signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the hearing is closed. Item 2 is a vote on the proposed local law to amend the Nassau County Administrative Code to require the Nassau County Police Department to prepare a quarterly crime report to the legislature and county executive. Moved by Legislator Muscarella, seconded by Legislator Walker. The item is before the legislature. We need an amendment which will require the New York Nassau County Police Department to request information to complete this local law's reporting requirements. Moved by Legislator Kennedy, seconded by Legislator Schaefer. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, amendment carries unanimously. Any further debate or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, carries unanimously. Okay, item 3 is an ordinance making certain determinations pursuant to SECRA and authorizing the county executive of the County of Nassau to accept on behalf of the county an offer of purchase from 3915 Austin Boulevard Owners, LLC, of certain real property located in Island Park. Moved by Legislator Ford, seconded by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell. So this item is now before the legislature, and would you like to say a few words?
Good evening. I'm Patrick Gallagher. I represent the Department of Real Estate Services in this transaction, which is for an ordinance to sell property that was formerly known as the Long Beach Motor Inn.
We had a lengthy discussion in committees, and then we had presentations at that time. We could either have another presentation or we could simply ask the question that needs to be asked. Legislator Bino?
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Good evening. I have a question regarding the condemnation sales price I understand that when it was going through that process, that the land was at that time valued at $3.5 million.
Well, it wasn't valued at that. That was actually what it was sold for.
Okay.
Yes,
So that's what we purchased. That's what we purchased it for. $3.5 million.
Yes, approximately 3.6 million.
And what year did that take place?
I believe that the payment was from 2017.
And so we believe that.
Well, the was the settlement of the case, right? The settlement of the actual case was in 2015, but I don't think that we paid that money until 2017.
Okay, so 2015, and so we
Yes.
believe that since 2015, the property has lost value to the tune of $2 million approximately? Or?
Well, no, that the purchase price that we paid in the condemnation proceeding was a result of litigation. It's my understanding that the property owner had an appraisal that was around $10 million, and our appraisal was somewhere around 700,000. So, in a way, it was really splitting the baby.
From $750K to $10 million, 3.5 was splitting the baby?
It was around the middle.
Not quite. Okay. So even if that were the case, right, and we feel in some way we were splitting the baby, but we believe that this current price is what else could have been a part of reducing the value of this land?
Well, I mean, it was really dictated by the market. We had 3 proposals, and they all came out with the same purchase price of $1.15 million.
So this sales price is being driven more so by what the RFPs, the responses in the RFPs, correct?
I would say that, yes.
So we would be willing to leave $2 million on the table because of low-end RFP responses? I mean,
I don't agree with that. We have an appraisal that pretty much matches the dollar value that we're going to sell the property for.
an appraisal that we did after the
Yes.
RFPs. Would it make sense? Wouldn't it have made more sense to have? All right, let me not ask that question that way. Wouldn't it have made sense to do? Arnie's telling me ask the question. Wouldn't it have made sense to actually had an appraisal done before we had the RFPs issued on the street?
This is Kevin Walsh, Office of Real Estate Service. Actually, we did have an RFP before.
An appraisal before you.
There were several RFPs done, and there was an appraisal done before the more recent appraisal, which valued the property at highest and best use. As I guess you learn more about the condition of the property after Sandy. I think about $1.6 million. The most recent appraisal, we didn't know when it came in if it would come in around that number. As Patrick mentioned, we had done several RFPs. The most recent one required a component of affordable housing. Prior RFPs didn't require that, and honestly, we didn't get proposals anywhere near $1 million, probably because of the condition and the challenges to redevelop this property because it's in a FEMA flood zone. We had appraisal proposals of $200,000. A lot of people thinking, what could we do with this property? When we did the affordable housing, we did some best and final offer requirements. We had 3 significant proposals that proposed housing, and through highest and best, the ranges seemed to just come in the $150,000. The most recent appraisal we had done was for a property that would develop between 18 and 22 units. and it came in at a value comparing other residential similar developments in the county of about $55,000 a unit, which is about $1.1 million. So we're in the range of fair market value for the proposed use we're selling for.
So I have real significant reservations for several different reasons about this particular item. Number one, I still can't wrap my head around us spending $3.5 million to acquire the property, and now we're willing to unload it for, almost $2 million plus dollars less than. It just we're losers here on this deal if we really finalize this item. Number two, I have a real problem with the idea of a property that originally came down in the item where we were going to build somewhere around, we were going to settle a case that would yield somewhere around 92 units of affordable housing. And in this particular case, we're going to entertain a bid and a proposal that would come in to build 18 units of housing, and only 4 of them are affordable. Again, a big loser for this county. I understand that there's a legal opinion that has been rendered that the Planning Commission did not have to be a part of the contract. I still don't necessarily agree with that, but again, it begs the question, what are we doing as a county? What is our policy, our public policy as it relates to affordable housing? We state that, we understand that we're losing young people and families and seniors in droves to states south of us because people can't afford to be here, that young people can't, move out of their parents' basements because there is a lack of affordable housing. But we would take a piece of land that we own, that we purchased at an amount of $3.5 million, and now utilize that same land to yield only 4 units of affordable housing? Where is the county's, I'm left to ask for clarification, where is the county's commitment to building affordable housing? I find that this leaves me unable to support this item. I think that we all should look at this item with significant reservations, because it leaves me to ask, why would a property that was going to be part of a settlement be valued at $3.5 million, where the land was going to be leased, not sold, leased to the developer, but on the other hand, where we're going to actually sell the property, which, while it will have some covenants and restrictions on the deed for those 4 affordable housing units, would be valued less than. When you're going to lease the land, it was at 3.5. When you were going to sell the land, it's at 1.1. It doesn't make any sense to me. This looks like a loser. This to me, this item should be DOA. To me, it should not even be considered. I don't know why we're here today considering it. I think my colleagues should really, this is something that we should table. I think there's too many unanswered questions here. That's my state on this, and if there's anything you can add that would kind of clarify some of my questions here and my concerns, please do. Other than that, I'll close by saying I vote no.
Legislator Ford.
I understand some of the concerns raised by Legislator Bino when you look at the fact that what we bought the property for and now what we're selling it for, there is a discrepancy of about $2 million. But looking at the history of this building, and we know that some of the constraints that we had, even in regard to the RFPs that were issued, was the density as well as the height of the buildings. I know that Legislator Bino referenced another developer who wanted to put in, but it was, I think, closer to 110 units. The building itself, because there would be a FEMA floor, would probably go to be at least 4 more stories above the FEMA floor, because we had seen some depictions of what the buildings would look like, the building would look like. That was taken into consideration only because the school district is rather small. They have one elementary and they have one middle school. That they wouldn't, I don't know whether or not they would have been able to absorb the number of students that would probably move into such a large, development. And also, I think there's concerns with that, since it's right in a residential where there's like just mostly homes, it would have been something too big, it wouldn't like really fit into the character of the neighborhood. I think with this development, I think it fits right in, 18 to 22. And I am, an advocate for housing. We've heard Mr. Edmondson talk about living in a shelter. We know too many people that need to find places to live, safe, good, clean places to live. And while this is just a small offering, I think it's very significant in the fact that this is something that will maintain what the structure looks like right now. There'll be upgrades. The property will be renovated. It will be made beautiful. And the one interesting fact is that for the benefit of the residents in Island Park, this developer will not be asking for any pilot, that they will build it with their own money, and it will then take the property that has not been on the tax roll to put it on a tax roll. The residents in Island Park, they're not an affluent, rich community. As we know, even with the LIPA settlement, they're fearing. We heard from Dean, who is on the board of the Long Island Park Library, and the impact of even losing $300,000 can greatly impact the library and cut a lot of the programs. For me, I think that even though when we look at it, we just look at dollars and cents in everything that we do, every transaction that we do, sometimes we lose the message of being public servants and working for our communities. And sometimes we have to look to see what would be the best fit for the community that we represent. And I believe that what you have achieved by bringing this contract to us is probably a very good fit for Island Park. And I think it will help alleviate some of the housing concerns. There are many, many abandoned homes in Island Park. People probably are going to probably have walked away from the houses, So, but I think that I commend you, for the hard work that both of you have done in regard to this. It has been very, very challenging, knowing that the lack of responses for some of the RFPs. I think that you kept going back to the drawing board, so you were able to find something that will definitely benefit the residents in Island Park and the people in Nassau County. And I will be voting yes.
Thank you.
Presiding officer.
Yes, Legislator Bynum.
Thank you. I just want to go back just to address a couple of things. You stated that, and I heard my colleague, Legislator Ford, mention FEMA conditions and post-Sandy conditions, but I think it's important that we put on record that you stated that the sale may have taken place in 2015, but money may not have been actually forwarded for to complete the sale until 2017, and I would argue that all of that was post-Sandy. So we understood the condition of that land when we made the purchase for $3.5 million. So I'm not sure why it's only now that we're articulating our concerns around the conditions there. The other thing is that, we're talking about, the school district and the like, and I have to say this because I'm finding that, government and chambers across and BZAs across this county is not finding it difficult to approve development in other areas where kids are being taught in trailers. But we're finding it hard now to build housing in what is considered to be a high opportunity area where we believe the school district would be burdened. I mean, I don't even know how we're having that, how we could even rationalize that as a real position, okay? Because they're looking to build in Hempstead, they're building in Newcastle, they're building in areas where these kids are being taught in trailers. So to tell me that a school district is being burdened is not, I can't accept that. I can't accept that as a real decision as to why we would reduce the number of units being built in Island Park. This is a high opportunity area, and I believe those units would be a benefit to this region. I have a real problem about this county's commitment to affordable housing, in so much that we even settled the case where we told the developer, we'll give you $5 million even if you build in Suffolk. Even if you build in Suffolk, you want to use county dollars, Nassau County taxpayer dollars, to settle an affordable housing case, a discrimination case, and tell them go build in Suffolk. We really have to take a real long look in the mirror and figure out what our public policy is. We're going to have to get in a room and have these difficult conversations, because this is not how that case should have been settled, and this is not how this land should be utilized. Thank you.
Is there any other debate or discussion?
Is that okay, Rich? I'm trying to think back to 2015, and I remember this building being described as like deplorable conditions and how we were going to have to do a lot of cleanup. Do you know if the county spent any money in the cleanup process, environmental cleanup?
I'm not sure. You know, I know the Department of Public Works is at the site frequently to deal with, you know, unfortunately it's vacant, so it's been vandalized, cleaning up the property because of concerns of neighbors and constituents, things of that nature. But I'm not aware of any work per se the county's done.
But wouldn't you take that into consideration before you would think of a price that we would sell the property for? How much money we've spent on it?
Well, it was an as-is, whereas sale. Somebody's taking obviously the risk of what's unknown. You know, asbestos, mold, all those things are factors in a redevelopment.
Correct, but if we've cleaned it on top of the $3.5 million that we spent, I mean, I would think that money would increase the value of the property.
Yes, but as I mentioned, I don't believe we've spent any money in any kind of cleanup.
I'll also just say that, you know, when I hear, I've heard a lot of different presentations for different developments, and it's interesting how the school district comes into play depending on what type of development we're going to have, and that's concerning to me. I hear sometimes, oh, don't worry, this will all be millennials or empty nesters, and then when they want to say that it won't affect the school district, and then other times, oh, it's a major influence on the school district. And honestly, the apartments are kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes. So I don't like that argument either. I think what Legislator Bino said is absolutely correct. We can't all say we want our children to stay here. We want the next, millennials to have a place. We want seniors who can't afford their homes anymore to have a place. This to me sounds like it would be something that we could have used as that example. And, it's disappointing. I don't know. I'm coming from an area where there's a tremendous amount of high-end apartments being built, and I just got a report from a real estate broker, so I don't know how legitimate, but some of the high-end RXR condos at the Garvey's Museum, I hear there's only 13% in contract now. And these were supposed to all be sold immediately, and they're not, the need for not even high income, middle income homes is not great. They're all over the place. I think we really need to have a place for our kids, the next generation, and, look, if the schools are impacted and we have more kids, that's also, what we'll be getting with no pilot, we'll be getting additional revenue to support those schools. Maybe that would be the jump start that they need. So, look, I'm standing with my colleague Sila Bino, and I think that we really needed to, this was a great opportunity that was missed.
Minority Leader Abrahams.
Presiding Officer, I support the earlier questioning and statements from my two colleagues in regards to the affordable housing component, but I'm sitting here, I'm trying to wrap my brain around a couple different things. As Legislator Bino mentioned in her question and answer, and the county purchased the property for $3.5 million in 2015. So that's a rhetorical question. I'm not asking you for a response. So we purchased the property in 2015 for $3.5 million. Why did the county entertain or engage in purchasing that property, is my question to you.
Well, it was a blighted property, and I believe that they thought that it would be in the public interest to do a condemnation on it.
So we determined in 2015 that there was a blight on the community, and we did an appraisal at that time, which gave us the feeling that $3.5 million was warranted.
No, I don't think that we did an appraisal that matched up with $3.5 million. It was my understanding from speaking with the attorney who handled the condemnation proceeding that our valuation of it was around $750,000.
So our valuation in 2015 of that property, the previous administrations and county attorneys and stuff, was around $650,000. But we maybe I'm just a layman. Maybe you have to explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Why would we purchase it for $3.5 million if our valuation is saying it's worth $650,000?
To compromise on a lawsuit, we had exposure of up to $10 million.
And that's Mahaney?
No. No, this is in the condemnation proceeding.
Could we have withdrawn our condemnation as a proof of the sale?
I really wouldn't be able to comment on that area of law. It's not my expertise.
All right, so to the average Nassau County taxpayer, trying to explain to them that the county purchased the property because of these issues with the condemnation for $3.5 million may be all well and good. Then to turn around, obviously with the Mahaney settlement and everything else that occurred that Legislator Bino asked about, now to turn around in 2020, shortly, 4 or 5 years later, and then now sell it for a little over $1 million. Would you kind of understand their frustration with the county potentially losing $2.5 million on a property they just purchased 5 years ago, which they didn't do an appraisal until after the RFP told them what people were willing to pay for it?
Well, we would have loved to sell it for $3.5 million, but the highest offer was only $1,150,000.
No, I get that. And the county received how many RFPs again?
How many RFPs did we issue, or how many proposals?
I'm sorry, how many proposals did you receive?
We had, on the last RFP, I believe three or four.
And you've RFP'd this property how many times?
At least 2 times.
I guess one on the Mahaney one as well. Okay.
2015 and August of 2016.
It just seems like it's a really concerning financial deal for the county. Would it hurt to RFP it for a third time? I mean, I guess what I'm driving at, I'm driving at from the real estate standpoint. What is the breaking point? If a property is as best as we can understand, if we paid X amount of dollars, I mean, this to me is a tremendous loss. Not just for the reasons that Legislator Bino and Legislator Richie Whitten mentioned, but it's a loss financially. I mean, is there some type of methodology or process that we go into thinking we're willing to take a 50% haircut or 100% haircut, or whatever the percentage is, we're willing to take a haircut? Like, I'm not too sure I understand. Why are we considering this today, unless we're prepared to take haircuts going forward on other properties that have higher values, or at least from the standpoint of what we paid? Maybe it was never worth 3.5 million bucks. Maybe it was, and that brings into a big question on why we paid that, which I could easily get into that. But I'm just driving at what is the methodology in terms of how we determine what we are prepared to sell a property for on an ongoing basis?
It is done on an appraisal basis. We've had, appraisals done and reviewed. Again, this property, we required a component of affordable housing to meet some of the needs that the legislature's raised, and it's market-driven.
But you see the issue with, and I'm getting ready to close, you do see the issue with the fact that if I was to sell my home, and wouldn't it make good sense for me, Joe homeowner, to find out what my comps are and what my value of my property is before I put it out on the market and start taking bids? I mean, I don't know. I'm throwing out the question. Wouldn't you want to know how much your home is worth before you decide to put it out on the market for X amount of dollars? To me, it seems like if we did the appraisal after the fact, then really the appraisal could kind of fit the box of what the RFPs are kind of saying. I'm not saying that's what you did, but one could criticize the county for that type of process in terms of how it went out.
And we had done an appraisal before as well, in addition to the one we updated recently. So
you did appraisal before the RFP?
Yes.
Oh, and what did that appraisal say?
That appraisal in 2015 came at about 1.6 million at that time, and that's from 2015.
So from 2015, the appraisal said 1.6 million. Mm-hmm. So we overpaid by $2 million bucks.
Well,
I wouldn't necessarily look at that where we compromised on a lawsuit where we had $10 million worth of exposure.
On a blighted property.
We compromised on a lawsuit that we had $10 million worth of exposure.
Yes.
But let me ask you, I mean, couldn't we have at that time asked for the county attorney to ask for what, discontinuation, you said?
We need an opinion from the county attorney as to whether we could have discontinued.
Oh, but counsel's referring me, don't we need an opinion from the county attorney that would indicate that we could have discontinued that? Did I say that right? I'm sorry. Maybe I should have you ask the question. Yeah, it is late.
I think I got it if you want me to try.
The point is, I think we could have discontinued that proceeding and not paid the inflated price. If they're saying something different, let them say it authoritatively.
Okay. Counsel is saying that we could have discontinued that proceeding. I don't know what is going on. Deal or deal, yes.
Do you think we could have asked the county attorney a legal opinion as to whether or not we could have discontinued the condemnation act and then possibly have purchased it for less?
Condemnation is effective the minute we file it.
Right.
This has nothing to do with it.
Well, I think the threat of the lawsuit being $10 million exposure had.
We could have withdrawn our proceeding.
Wait, one at a time.
All right, so did the county bring the suit for condemnation?
Yes, we have a vesting order.
So the county started the suit for $10 million, which, okay. So could we have at some point asked the county attorney to discontinue that suit rather than pay the $3.5 million? That's what I don't know.
But either way, whether or not you can answer that, I think what counsel's referring is that shouldn't the county attorney answer these questions before we move forward on this item?
I'd say no, that's ancient history at this point. Whether or not they could have, could have withdrawn the condemnation proceeding or not, it's irrelevant. They didn't. They settled the case, so we are now left with the point, and we have this property, and the county is looking to move it. Whether they could have or should have or anything else with respect to the condemnation, and they didn't, it's not pertinent to whether this.
It's
we should move
relevant.
forward with this.
It's relevant from the standpoint, Presiding Officer, if the county is truly taking a really hard look at potentially a really bad deal. If there is justification that indicates, based off the 1.6 appraisal as well as the 3.6 purchase price, then that would help ease the minds of our side, at least, in regards to how we proceed. That's why we're asking the question. I understand you. I agree. It's water under the bridge. It's done. We're facing what we're facing today. However, looking at this in a vacuum, this looks like a very bad deal financially for the county. I'm not discrediting what Legislator Ford has brought up in regards to the blight on the community. That's not what I'm addressing. I'm looking at it potentially from the standpoint, county purchases the property for X, which is $3.5 million, and then now is purchasing it for $2 million less. And we're not talking about something that's happened over a 30-year period. We're talking about something that's happened over a 4-year period. So that's the only reason we brought it up. But if there's no potential entertainment for bringing down the county attorney to clarify, then we'll move forward accordingly. I just thought it would be best to have that there to question the county attorney.
Is there any other debate or discussion?
I just want to say again that, I do stand by the appraisal that was done for the proposal we did receive for the 20 units. That appraisal for that value does match what market would hold for a project, which I want to point out again, even though there's only 4 units affordable, this is the first time in my experience from doing as a county on a project where we're also proposing a project that's going to be compliant with the county's model zoning, inclusionary zoning ordinance to guarantee at least 20% are affordable, and that will be something that will be in the deed for 30 years required. The property will be back on the tax rolls, as Legislator Ford mentioned. This will be, again, productive tax roll property, and hopefully meeting a need that was one of the reasons the county condemned, to provide some affordable, reasonable housing in the area where there was significant storm damage. This property is literally underwater in Sandy, and it was struggling before then, and Sandy really knocked this property out. And I don't think even DPW had an idea of the amount of damage that was done within the buildings. And the reconstruction of the property is very limited in the sense that the ground level can only be parking and storage. There can be no living space on the first floor because of the location. And I think Legislator Drucker mentioned in committees, correctly so when I looked at it, it's a significant cost for a developer to take the risk to put significant money in this to meet the standards. So there's, God forbid there is another storm, the property will withstand it, and, it'll still be a viable project.
Rich.
Legislator Drucker.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you mentioned my comment, but it was really out of context, because it seems to me that price really was irrelevant here, because when you appraised the property, you said in 2015 at $650,000 or $700,000. That was because it was in such deplorable condition from Superstorm Sandy. It was underwater, and really, isn't it fair to say that in 2020 the condition is no worse, no better? It's the same? So yet, in 2015, when you felt that the property was worth $700,000, yet you chose to settle or compromise, as Patrick said, at $3.5 million, you really had no real concern about the price. It was more or less trying to save us from some exposure in the liability question. So the price really didn't come into play, because anyone can see that that's a bad deal. If you're appraising the property at $700,000 and you sell for $3.5 million, it's really not a good deal. So you can't really tell us, it's disingenuous to tell us now that $3.5 was a good price. It really wasn't a good price. It was a selling price that you entered into because you needed to settle that case without giving us exposure to greater liability. So if that's the case, let's fast forward to now. Price is really not important anymore. the property is in deplorable condition. It was a bad deal from the outset. It's a bad deal now. Why not entertain RFPs from developers who are more interested in putting in affordable housing, more units? Maybe we'll knock off the price instead of 1.15, knock it down to $900,000 or $800,000. Doesn't matter anymore. We've already took a bath on this property, but at least we could do some good out of it and find a developer that's going to put more affordable housing in there instead of 4 units. It's ridiculous. That's embarrassing, and I said that the last time. Why not put out an RFP to get a developer that's more interested in that? I'd rather have the county lose another $300,000, but we're going to get more affordable housing units in there. Thank you.
I just want to hopefully put a point or an end to one aspect of this. I'm not going to address the affordable housing aspect and whether or not there ought to be more units, because that's no. I mean, in terms of the price thing, I think there may be a misunderstanding of the way it works, and I'm no expert on condemnation, but the way I understand it is that when the lawsuit for condemnation, when a condemnation is filed, that's game over. The condemnation is done. Price comes later. Would that be fair?
That's correct.
Price
That's
comes
why I
later.
understand it.
So it was condemned. That's it. Game over. The county owns it. The price litigation can go on for many, many, many years sometimes. It can go on. Another building can be built there and could be sold 4 times. It doesn't matter. That litigation can still go on. The litigation was settled because it made sense to settle the litigation. Those are 2 separate issues. The price that they may have arrived at to settle that litigation may have been wise, may not have been wise at the time. That's what the price was, and I believe probably this legislature approved it at the time, and it was done. And that's water under the bridge. I think everyone agrees. And all of that has absolutely no bearing on what the price ought to be today. It's just not relevant anymore. It's just totally irrelevant. You can only talk about affordable housing, and I get that part, but we spent a lot of time talking about price, and it's just not a sensible issue to talk about.
So at the present time, and I want to thank both of you for giving your presentations, we're going to move the table, or we're going to request to move the table. We believe it's more prudent to have the county attorney come down and state for the record his opinion as it pertains to that condemnation proceedings. And we believe it would be more prudent to have a clearer understanding of how the county proceeded with the $3.5 million payment rather than not understanding. I no disrespect to my colleague Howard Coppell, but by his own admission, he is not an expert. I think we should have someone here from the county attorney's office who could speak to this. I don't think I claim to be an expert either. That's why I'm seeking the opinion, to ensure that the county's processes in regards to that condemnation proceeding makes sense and still holds true to today. As I said before, just put yourself in the position of Joe homeowner and looking at something that happened in a very short period of time. I understand condemnation means that it's game over. We get that. But how they came to the determination of the price without having an understanding of whether or not we could have withdrawn the condemnation, I'm not too sure how all that came to place. Also, I would also ask, just for the record, and I don't believe we have it available today, I would like to see what representations were made to the legislature at that time in regards to the sale of that property. If there were representations that indicated, as you said, Kevin, that there was an appraisal that was done that said that the property was worth 1.6, then I'm flabbergasted on how those representations were made to the county, and we decided to do $2 million more. That doesn't make any sense. If I understood you correctly, the appraisal in 2015 indicated the value of the property is 1.65. Where did the 1.67? Where did the 1.65 come from?
That was an appraisal I had done around the times of the issue of the RFP in late 2015, I believe.
Yeah, 2015. No, he just said 1.65 was in late 2015.
Yes, the valuation that we used in the condemnation proceeding was for $750,000.
750,000,
Yes, that's correct.
but not based on an appraisal.
It was based on an appraisal, and the property owner had a $10 million appraisal.
Unfortunately, that makes the situation worse. Because I still don't understand what representations were, and I'm not saying either one of you gentlemen made those representations, but what representations were made to give the county the comfort that it was okay to spend $3.5 million when there was an appraisal that was for $750,000. And I understand the issue with the condemnation. I get that. But how can that be?
We weren't involved in the condemnation litigation.
Okay. Well, move the table.
Okay, motion to table by Minority Leader, second by Legislator Savage. All in favor of tabling signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to table fails by a vote of 11 to 8. All right, so let's, any further debate or discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of item 3, ordinance 10, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ordinance passes by a vote of 11 to 8. There remain 2 items on the calendar, item 13, resolution 15, and item 15, resolution 17. Thank you, gentlemen. A resolution authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement between the County of Nassau, acting on behalf of the Department of Parks, and the Agricultural Society of Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk counties.
Good evening. Eileen Creed.
I just have to call the other one. A resolution authorized, the second one is Resolution 17. The resolution authorizing the Agricultural Society of Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk counties to use the fairgrounds at Old Bethpage Village Restoration as a fairgrounds for 5 years from 2026 through 2030. Moved by Legislator DeRidge Whitten, seconded by Legislator Kennedy. Okay, now you can go, Eileen.
Good evening. Eileen Creed, Commissioner of Nassau County Parks. Resolution 15, 2020 is an agreement between the Nassau County and the Agricultural Society to make the Ag Society similar to one of our non-for-profit friend groups, just like we have partners presently in the Parks Department, which would allow them fundraising opportunities, help us with programming, promotional support, and also a very strong part of these non-for-profit groups is that they're able to apply for grant funding, as well as they have received endowments from different families who have left their estates to be used at OBVR. So that is what Resolution 15, 2020 is. And Resolution 17, 2020 was the Ag Society is sanctioned by New York State, which allows them to be our partner for the Long Island Fair for the past 50 years. And during this past 3 years, they've applied for different grants because of this recognition by the state. And they've been successful in receiving $384,612 in grants that we would be allowed to use on the existing fairground building out at Bethpage Village.
Thank you. Any debate or discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of these 2 items? Aye. Oh, wait, hold on. Who has a question? Did I hear that? Mr. Rhodes.
Commissioner Krieb, how are you?
I'm a little tired.
I understand. I understand. I'm a little bit confused by the terms of the agreement and who ultimately would be responsible for the programming that's going on at Old Bethpage Village Restoration. During the committee sessions, we had asked some questions in that vein, received some information back from the Parks Department indicating that we wouldn't be losing any of the employees, county employees at Old Bethpage Village Restoration. But I'm still confused about who has ultimate control over the programming and why there needed to be a 30-year term to the agreement.
The structure out of Bethpage Village will not change at all. it'll still be run by Nassau County employees. And we have Bailey Arboretum, Cedarmere, we have many friends groups that help support or supplement the programming that we are able to do as a county. So the Ag Society brings their relationship with Cornell University in, where we'll be partnering with them on 4-H programs and bringing new education to the facility. As you know, we predominantly attract the 4th grade class for 19th century history, and we can't survive just on those students coming on a daily basis. So we are always trying to incorporate new ideas and new opportunities in education for the students to grab onto, and not just 4th graders. Now we do Civil War, which is high school, so we're always trying to expand our educational programs. During this past February break, I partnered with Cornell, and we had when schools closed, we're open kind of theme, and we had close to 24 children join our programming, which we normally would have had nothing. And same thing with spring break. So our goal is always to keep expanding that education opportunity and to appeal to as many students as we can.
Who ultimately has final control over the programming, though?
I do, the commissioner. Mm-hmm.
So that does, even under the agreement, that final control still rests with...
Yes, definitely, and it has to complement with what our mission is.
Okay. Now, what happens if the partnership doesn't work? One of the concerns is, we're going for a 30-year term here, and I understand that there is a...
Yeah, it's revocable 30 days notice if it was not to work.
And is that either way, or is that solely at the option of the county?
Either way. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, go for it.
Just one quick question, Eileen. I know we had issues with, I believe, the Cradle of Aviation, where some things were donated, and then there was a question of who owned the properties, whether it was the Friends of...
The county
okay.
owns the collection, correct.
At this point, the county owns the collection at Old Bethpage. Going forward, if new items are donated to Old Bethpage, who's going to own those items?
Those items would be gifted to Nassau County.
Is that clarified in something that we can go back for? Because I know there's an issue going on with the Cradle.
The Cradle, their entire collection was acquired through the Long Island Heritage Group, and those collections belong to Nassau County. And the same here, if any collections were purchased to enhance the collection out there, they would become Nassau County ownership.
All right, and that's stipulated in this agreement?
Yeah, yes, it is.
It is? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, then all those in favor of this item? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the item passes, it's unanimously, but how many? You can count. Okay, it's 18-0. Okay, that's the last item, so motion to adjourn made by Mr. Muscarella, seconded by Ms. Walker. All those in favor of adjournment? Any opposed? Okay.
Mr.
Real close up.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We even gave them names.
All right, let's
I like that personal love.
do the Rules Committee. Mike?
Yes. Thank you.
I just happen to be inside.
Rules Committee roll call.
Like this stays. This is for rules. Yeah, I'll take that. Yes, please, Mr. Pulitzer, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Legislator Sela Bino.
Don't know if I have
Legislator Delia DeRiggi-Whitten. Ranking Member Kavan Abrahams.
He's around here somewhere.
Legislator Laura Schaefer. Legislator Stephen Rhodes. Vice Chairman Howard Copel. Thank you. Chairman Richard Nicolello.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. We have one item to be considered. That's E18 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the county executive to execute an amendment to a personal services agreement between the county and Family and Children's Association. Moved by Legislator Rhodes, seconded by Legislator Bino. Okay, so that's before us. We have several individuals at the podium, and I know that you have the report of the IG, and she had posed several questions. I'd like you to attend to those.
Michael Kanowitz from DSS. I believe as to the second point that the representative of the county attorney's office will address part of that. As to the first part, I believe you've been provided with a revised summary of the services, and that corrects a clerical error in the nature of the services under the contract.
Okay, so then the revised summary contains an accurate description of the services the county is contracting for.
Yes, I believe that to be correct.
Okay.
As to the second point on the, I believe on the term.
Yes, Paul Hertzfeld from the County Attorney's Office. The second point is in response to the Office of the Inspector General's question about the extension of the contract beyond 2018. And there was an extension at the end of 2018 that went through 2019. I believe it was approved by the legislature. Now, again, the contract is being extended for an additional year. Now, the original contract from 2014 had 4 single-year extensions to it, which the county could exercise at its own option. The last 2 extensions were not at the sole option of the county because Family and Children's Association, and because luckily Family and Children's Association agreed to them. They're having agreed to them, and the ledge hopefully approving them, the extensions are perfectly lawful.
Okay, so then it's your testimony that the contract was in fact extended through 2019.
That's my understanding, based on the documentation I've seen, that there was a 1-year extension, and now there's an additional extension that's that it was done on consent of the Family and Children's Association. It wasn't as of right. We didn't have a right to demand it because those were only for the first 4 years, but it was agreed to.
I think what she's asking, though, is, I can tell you what she's asking, is it correct that the extensions should have been exhausted in 2018?
It's correct that the our right to demand renewals on the same terms and conditions exhausted at the end of 2018. But if the parties agreed, which they did, to extend them for 2 additional years, it's legally permissible. Now, the question is whether, if you're asking whether or not there should be a new procurement at this point, I think that's a different question, but it's not, but that doesn't really, the question of whether these extensions are legally permissible and enforceable contracts, the answer to that is clearly yes.
Okay. I think that answers that. Lastly, the third point.
As to the third point, it is my basic understanding that it is the services, the payment is for the entire program and not on a per-child basis. That is my best understanding.
I guess, well, I think specifically, she asked whether we're paying for 60 families but only servicing less than 30.
Well, again, it's my understanding it is the program. My understanding is that as of through 2019, the information that was provided to me is that 24 families were serviced under this program. And, but again, it is my understanding it is for the entire program is the nature of the contract and not per family.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So, just if I could follow up, I apologize about having you going back and forth to the podium. I understand that the contract is for this program. So I'm confused on where is the IG getting the reference of 60 families? Is that indicated in the contract?
I believe that the original contract indicates, and I want to make sure I state this to you correctly, that it does provide for 60 families in the original contract going back to 2013. I believe that to be the case.
So the original contract referenced the 60. That's where she's coming up with that number.
Yes, I believe so. I believe that's.
And when did it morph from 60 families being concrete to a program funding?
Well, again, I feel that's my understanding. I cannot fully address that question. I think it's beyond my particular knowledge. And it assumes a certain, that it wasn't always that you were paying for the program in its entirety and not per family.
Who would be able to answer the question on whether or not year to year how many families we've been servicing? We're servicing 24 now. In 2015, were we servicing 34?
I would have to go back and try to obtain an answer for you on that. I don't have that knowledge.
Okay. So I have a question. Just to clarify, I mean, from our understanding, are we paying for 60 families to be serviced? Are we paying for the service to be provided? And if it turns out to be 60, that's good. But it could be less.
So, Katie Horst from the County Executive's Office. So I spoke with Jeff Reynolds earlier this evening. The program funds the staff who runs the funding. The money is used to fund the staff to run the program. So last year, I believe it was about 24, 25 families that used the program. They currently have 11 cases in 2020. They've got four family support homemakers, one office manager, one supervisor, and a part-time of another employee. The program has a capacity of 20 cases per caseworker at a time, and that they currently have 11 cases open. We don't pay by case. We pay to fund the program for the year. I spoke with Brendan Roach from DSS earlier tonight, and he says about 90% of their contracts are funded this way, where we fund the entire program for the year. And of course, we do reconciliation, and we don't give all the money up front. But this is how most of the DSS social programs are operated.
Okay, so we fund the program itself, whether they wind up helping 60 families or they help 30 families or 20 families.
And every year it fluctuates, and we're happy to get the numbers of how many families the program has serviced over the life of the contract.
How long? What's the term of this contract?
This is a one-year extension. I believe DSS is looking to go out for an RFP for the 2021 services.
Okay. All right. You guys have any questions? Additional questions?
Okay, I just have a couple quick questions. When you mention reconciliation, you're talking about what, like taking a look at the program and seeing if you need, your needs are different the following year?
No, that the money that we've provided is the money that they've spent.
Okay. And can you tell me anything about Project Independence? Anybody there?
That's, my understanding is that Project Independence is a totally separate program and contract.
Okay. Is it handled the same way as this one?
I would not be able to fully respond to you on that, and I would have to go back and seek further information for you.
Okay.
We can get you like a one-pager on the program and how it works and if it's similar.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, I think we're going to move ahead on this. I think I'm in agreement with the minority leader. We wanted to see an RFP for beyond this extension. We want to see something new. Any other debate or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, carries unanimously. Motion to adjourn by Legislator DeRicci Witten, seconded by Deputy Presiding Officer Coppell. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye.